let me hit the record button, and I knew I was going to get that. That's why she told me. So I'm going to hand it over to Rosa, and we will get started. So Rosa, it's on you.
Good morning, guys. I am on Pacific time for the first time in my life. We moved to California last week, and y'all, 7 a.m. is early for a call, but I got ready for you this morning, and I just found this trick on YouTube where, if you know how sometimes when you have a ponytail or you put your hair up in a bun, there are like these like spots that are like a little bit bald looking. They're not bald spots, but do you know what I'm talking about? If you use a little brush and an eyeshadow that you don't like everybody has like a hairish color eyeshadow that you don't really like, you can just fill them in. Mine are all gone. So you're welcome to start the morning. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story, and I want to talk today about creating urgency with your goals and creating diamonds on your team as well. So before we go into that, like, who is this person? I've been a coach for, wow, it's going to be 6 years, October 1st. I can't even believe that. I started coaching because, you know, Barbie Decker or Barbie Kalev now? Yeah, she's my sponsored coach. Her and I did our first Beachbody program together. It was the Slim and Six with the porn music in the background, the very first rendition. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The horrible, yeah, Slim and Six. That's the one that we did. And we met on, you guys, before she was a coach, we met on the team Beachbody message boards. I didn't even have a Facebook account at that time. It's like, I don't know, 12 years ago, something like that. So we did this horrible workout program that we all hated together, but we all got results, and we kept each other accountable, as you do, right? At that time, it was Nishi's Ladder that we were doing. And she became a coach right after. I'm Canadian, so I wasn't allowed to have a coach account. I couldn't become a coach at that time, which was probably a good thing because I wouldn't have seen the potential at that time. I watched her for 5 years as she grew her business. She went from being a professor to quitting that job and becoming a full-time coach, which at the time I was like, you crazy. Like, you're ruining your whole life. What are you doing? Which is hilarious now because she's like a 7-figure earner, right? But I watched her build this business, and for 5 years, while I built my own career, I worked corporate, I worked my way up the ladder, that very traditional sort of, you get a job in a cubicle and you go for the corner office with the windows. I kid you not, I was like that, stereotypical, and had this job that I actually really liked. I was earning 6 figures. There was nothing wrong with my job whatsoever. I was good at it. And however, I had 2 kids and went on the way when coaching came to Canada, and I just had this like, oh, like angels singing, clouds parting sort of moment when Barbie texted, or she messaged me on Facebook, and she said, Rosa, coaching is coming to Canada. Like, you're going to be able to do this. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even know it, but I have been feeling so stuck in my life, so stuck in my life. Like, I make too much money in my career to be able to just leave it and do anything else, right? And I wanted to work in fitness, but as a personal trainer, unless I become like super famous and get like on the Ellen show or something, I didn't feel like I had the opportunity to make really good money doing that. So 2 days from my due date, I told Barbie, listen, my husband has seen this birth thing happen 2 times in 2 different ways. Like, one natural birth, one cesarean. So like there's nothing new going to happen with 3rd baby. So if coaching registration opens up while I'm pushing the baby out, my husband will just go register me real quick and come back. I was that serious. It's hilarious to me now that I said that, but I did. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to jump on this the second it opens because I can't wait another minute to not feel stuck in this job and to have this opportunity to create like a life by design. We say it so flippantly now. But at that time, before I started coaching, I did not say it flippantly. I was just like awestruck with this thing that this person had done, you know, this person that I only ever met on Facebook. Can somebody mute, please? Thank you. Yeah, so I was just so excited to duplicate what this person had done. And I told my husband, I was like terrified of failing when I started, just terrified of failing. And my husband said, even if you waste your entire mat leave, in Canada we get a year, he said, even if you waste your entire mat leave trying to build this thing and it doesn't work out, you will have spent the year trying to make our family's life better. So what's to regret? Really? So I was like, okay, he just wrote me a blank check to waste a year. You know, I've got his buy-in to waste this year. So I decided I'm jumping in with both feet, no matter what, this thing is going to happen. And I made it, and this is going to be a common theme, like write this down, listen, store this away, put it in your back pocket, because I cared so much about what other people thought of me starting out, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I am an MLM person. Ooh, like that. That's how I felt, right? I'm like, oh man, I care so much about what people think, and putting myself out there like this, I got to make it worse for myself if I fail than to succeed. So I have to go so public with my dreams and my vision. I have to tell people, like my corporate colleagues, who, let me tell you, one of my colleagues, and he was bitter because I got promoted ahead of him twice, but he told me, I can't believe you're doing this kind of business where you take advantage of your friends and family just so you can get ahead. And I was like knife to the heart. But what I did was I made it worse for myself to fail than to put myself out there by telling everybody, including all of my colleagues, including all of my CrossFit workout buddies. I was competing in CrossFit at the time. I told all of them, as much as it made me feel like throwing up, my vision for this thing. And what I said was, I'm going to make so much money that I'm going to replace my corporate income, and I'm going to tender my resignation. And then I'm going to make so much money after that that I'm going to out-earn Chris's cop salary, and he's going to retire too. Watch me, I will. Like, I said it with certainty, even though I was like pooping my pants in the background. But I did that because I knew I had to trick myself, right? I knew I had to trick myself like that. I had to make it so public that it was going to be devastating for me if I didn't actually end up doing it. And so as I went along, I started to I'm like, well, I haven't tendered my resignation yet, and they don't know that I'm doing really well, so I better post my own damn accolades all over the Facebook. Look what I did. Look what I did now. Look what I did now, 6 months into coaching. Not that they necessarily knew what all of the things meant that I was posting about, but what I did was I established my own momentum in my own mind, and I just showed proof, right, all along the way. I am doing this thing. I said I'm going to do this thing, and I am doing this thing. And I don't care what you think. I found out years later that they weren't thinking about me nearly as much as I thought they were thinking about me. Like, not even close, you know? And all of these people that I was like, screw you, they were like cheering me on. And I was like, whoops. But my point is that I really did trick myself into that momentum and into that urgency and into that like becoming public and being all in with this thing. So 9 months later, I did tender my resignation to my corporate career. And again, we get 1 year for maternity leave. So, you know, I had more time than somebody would with 6 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever off. However, let me say that I had a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my newborn baby, like I signed up 2 days after I had this baby, and I started working. I started working immediately. I was not playing with this thing. And this baby would nurse for an hour, sleep for an hour, nurse for an hour, sleep for an hour, right? Oh, I don't even know what happened with that one. right? But so I wasn't like full of energy or anything like that. I was a tired mom of three running on coffee and like prayers throughout the day. And to get this thing done. It's just that vision that I had, that I told everybody else about, that really, really carried me forward. I did retire my husband from the police service 3 years into my career as well, which was huge for our family. My husband had PTSD. If you know and love an emergency response worker, you know that it's more difficult. It's more difficult on the home life. It's more difficult psychologically, emotionally than what people typically see on the outside. So he had the opportunity to really do some recovery from PTSD and is now starting his undergrad in psychology to help other people do that same thing, which is incredible. Like that. Can we mute somebody? Thank you. There was just this weird feedback happening. Thanks. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah. And then in 2017, January 2017, I got this call from Jeff Hill and Michael Neiman, and they said, congratulations, your team is top 10. We're so proud of you. And you know, it was this amazing moment where our team had pulled together and worked so hard and accomplished this big thing. What happened was a couple of weeks later, my dad had a stroke and was in the hospital, and they live across the country from where we lived. And my sister, who was just a year older than me and had just recently quit her corporate job to start coaching, she decided, I'm going to be at the hospital with mom and dad every day and just, you know, do what I need to do to help them out. And she wasn't feeling well at the time, and she hadn't been for months. Actually, a couple weeks after that, she collapsed at the hospital, and we were texting. She was calling me, and I was like, had this feeling like in the pit of my stomach, something's really wrong. Like something's really wrong. And we found out just a few days later that she had stage 4 colon cancer that had metastasized to the liver and everywhere, really, at that time. And I dropped everything from my diamond retreat. I was there for a day and a half, and flew over to see her and held her hand when the doctor told her, like, we're going to treat you so that you have the best quality of life possible for as long as you have. Cure is not on the menu, he kept saying. And I just felt like my whole world just started to come crashing down around me. Very quickly after that, my brother was diagnosed with brain cancer, and we found out he was terminal as well. And then my dad had a heart attack a couple months after that. It was like about every 6 weeks, a massive medical emergency happened. My dad had a heart attack, a triple bypass, had to start dialysis because his kidneys were no longer functioning properly. And we found out that he doesn't have that long either. And then my sister passed away last year. It was just the anniversary on Monday. So it's just feeling very fresh again. And then, yeah, my sister passed away. And last year, like, it just felt like, how can all of this happen to one person? How can all of this stuff happen to one person? Like, and I know it sounds selfish, but I thought there were times when I thought, like, this is supposed to be my team's top 10 year. This is supposed to be the year where we get to celebrate, where we get to, like, right? Where we get to celebrate all of our accomplishments from all of that hard work, going for this massive goal. And that's not what happened. But I just want to give you guys a little bit of a different perspective that you may not hear very often, because, you know, I just hope nobody ever has a year like I had last year. But here's the deal, you guys. Like, I've out-earned my corporate salary by more than double, and that's awesome. That really is awesome. I'm not afraid to say that I like making a good amount of money. I mean, I like makeup and stuff, but more than that, I like the freedom that comes from not having to worry about, bills getting paid and all of that stuff. Like, I'm not afraid to talk about any of that. But last year, I became richer than I ever thought possible. And I didn't feel it at the time, but I was able to drop everything and fly across the country sometimes 3 times a month, usually twice a month. And I would spend a few days to a week out there, depending on what was happening. My husband didn't have a job at the time, and, he was taking a break, and I didn't have to worry about childcare or anything. I didn't have to ask anybody for that time off. I got to drop everything and go and hold my sister's hand and be there for my dad's surgery and be there for my brother's surgery. Like, that is being wealthy. That is what wealth feels like, is to be able to drop everything and be there for the people who need you. We got to help out financially, where, we got to take away that stress of my sister's husband. Like, how are we going to pay the bills? I can't work. They have 3 kids. And there's this wealth that I felt last year that I never, ever, ever had felt before. So there's a perspective to this business, to this long-term, to this vision long-term, that I want to instill in the network. It's not just necessarily about you. It is about you. I want you to have the clothes, and I want you to be able to pay to get your nails done whenever you want to. Like, yeah, I want you to do that. I want you to be able to pay off your debt. But I also want you to have this level of freedom that if crisis were to hit, you could drop everything. You wouldn't have to ask anybody for time off. Your husband or your partner or whoever wouldn't have to ask anybody for permission to take care of these people. And you'd have the resources to do that. Like, this isn't super fun to talk about, but it's so, so, so important. I got a lot of moments last year, and that's what made me wealthy. So that is my story. And what I want to talk about, you guys, is the hustle and the urgency that I had in creating my business before last year happened. I spent 4.5 years, not all the time in hustle mode, but definitely for the first 2.5 years, I was in hustle mode. I didn't watch TV when I went to the grocery checkout. I did not know what they were talking about on the magazines. Like, I didn't, like, who are these movie stars and whatever. Like, it took me forever to find out who, like, William and Kate. I didn't know who Kate was. I had no idea what was going on with that situation. I'm like, why is this girl on the cover of all the magazines? It was that bad. The thing is, I didn't sacrifice time with my kids, you guys. I didn't sacrifice time with my husband. Like, I'd like to bust the myth that top 10 coaches get there by doing this 100% of the time. It's just not the truth. Here's the deal. My kids are upset or feel neglected based on what I don't do, not based on what I do. Let me explain. They feel neglected if I don't spend time with them. They don't care if I work hard. They don't care if I get up early. They don't care if I stay up late. They don't care if I sit there and do my phone stuff while they're doing homework, right? As long as I have intentional and focused time with them. If their cup is full, they don't care what I do. Does that make sense? They care what I don't do. So before you do anything else, grab your calendar and put your intentional focused kid time in there if you're a parent. If you're a daughter, if you're a wife, if you're a husband, like, put your intentional focused people time in there first and foremost. And that's a non-negotiable. Do not flake on these people. Don't do it. This is going to fill your cup. This is going to fill their cup. That way, when you're pushing hard, when you're in a state of urgency in your business and you're going somewhere in your business, you're not going to be concerned about all of these, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. You're not going to have all of these guilt feelings that are weighing you down as you're trying to run, right? So that intentional and focused time, that goes in there first. That is a non-negotiable. and then you are free to run when it's time to run. Something else in terms of something major that I did when I was in this, particularly, like I said, I wasn't in push time for the entire 4.5 years before last year, but I certainly was for 2.5 of it. And here's the deal. I made the decision coming in. I knew coming in that I was going to have to sacrifice Netflix and movies and all of this stuff. I made a deal with my friends because I knew I needed my friends. I'm a social person. I knew I needed their support, and I wanted to like keep that relationship. I talked to my sisters. I talked to my mom. I said, listen, y'all, I'm going to be so busy. There's this huge dream that I have. I am going to quit my corporate career. I'm going to retire Chris. I'm going to have my mortgage paid off by the time I'm 40. And, you know, in order to do this, like, I really got to focus on starting this business. So I can't pick up the phone whenever you call, but can we talk every single Sunday at 3:00? I know, to plan all your social stuff, like, this seems like extreme, but if you're in a push time in your business, this gives you everything you need to have in your life, in your soul, to fill up your cup so that you can run in your business. And you are keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening with your friends and your family. With my friends, same thing. Listen, I am in this like super focused time in my business. I got to launch this thing, or I got to launch this vision or this goal. I really want to stay connected with you, but I know I'm not going to be able to drop everything and do coffee once a week or whatever. Can we just plan to see each other for sure once a month? That was for me, that worked, and that worked really, really well. So I had that negotiation with my friends, with my family, with my husband, even my 5-year-old daughter at the time. She didn't really get what was going on, and she's like, cool, mom, cool, you know, whatever. Can we play now? So I had this conversation with everybody. With some people, it was just to make me feel better. And with others, it was to set an expectation. I love you. I'm just not going to be able to do this like ad hoc sort of conversation as much as we used to. And I think most importantly, when you identify that you're in a time of push in your business, whether that's for 1 quarter or 1 month of your business, maybe that's, you know, first month of the quarter every single year or every single quarter for you, whatever that is. When you identify that you're in a time of push in your business, if you're going for elite, if you're trying to build diamonds in particular right now, there's a mindset thing that needs to happen first and foremost. So what I realized was that, similar to a weight loss journey, motivation does not carry a business. And so often what we do is we cut ourselves a little slack today, or this week, we cut ourselves a little slack and decide that we're not going to do all of the activities necessarily, you know, that we might be able to do to get ourselves toward a goal, because we trust future me. We trust future me to sacrifice for what we won't sacrifice for today. We trust that future me is going to have a little bit more energy because she's going to feel a little bit more motivated for some reason. Like, there's fairy dust on future me, right? The thing is, though, like, future me is not to be trusted. You cannot trust somebody in the future, the you tomorrow, or like have this idea that when you feel more motivated, and I know we don't think about it that hard, right? We're just like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. I will, right? Like, we keep putting it off as if in the future we are going to have more motivation and we're going to have more energy behind that goal. And what I realized very early on in my coaching career is that this is going to feel disappointingly ordinary almost every day, just disappointingly ordinary. I'm just going to go and do the things, I'm not wearing one of those flowy gowns that Lindsay Matway was wearing on stage at the time, right? It's just going to feel just real, grind every day, sit down and do the things. And I became okay with that. I think Barbie did a really good job setting an expectation with me that I didn't need to feel motivated in order to do the things. It's in those moments of decision in the everyday when we're not feeling that motivation that real successful businesses are built. That is where the money is made. That is where the diamonds are built, in the everyday, super ordinary moments of decision. And I think it's really important for us to get that in our heads so that we don't put things off for future me to do. It's the level of sacrifice that we're willing to make today in terms of organization, in terms of Netflix, getting up early, whatever it takes to hit that goal. You know what? In fact, people think way too hard about if they can accomplish a goal. Could you be a top 10 coach? Hell yes, you could. Heck yes, you could. Sorry, guys. Yeah, absolutely you could. Of course you could. When I started coaching, you guys, I knew for a fact, for sure, I am not particularly beautiful. When you look at all the top coaches all dolled up, I'm not particularly gorgeous. I knew nothing about social media. I had 100 friends on 153 friends on Facebook, and most of them were just from back home where I used to live. To keep in touch, right? I knew nothing about social media. I am not very creative at all. I discovered I have a love for writing about 4 years into coaching, and posting was a grind for me. You guys, one time I took a picture of myself with a can of tuna. Why? With bad lighting. Why did I post that? Why would I have done something like that? I was not good at anything that coaches do when I started coaching. But I just said, you know what? Nobody is going to outwork me. Meaning, nobody's going to show up more than I do. Nobody's going to get up after failing more than I do. I will fail so hard. I will learn so hard, and then I will get back up. And nobody's going to get back up more times than I do. And I got back up all the way to top 10. I'm telling you guys, if I can do that, yes, you can do that too. So stop, do me a favor and stop wondering if you can be an elite coach, if you can become a 2-star diamond coach, if you, stop asking yourself the question. Don't even bother with it anymore. This is your brain just trying to trick you into staying where you are because that's comfortable. That's just your brain trying to trick you. Disregard it completely and spend your energy instead asking yourself how you can do it. That's when your brain starts to get creative. We spend so much time on so many different calls learning how Jen Richardson does Instagram, right? We learn the hows. And there's nothing wrong with learning the hows. But I think sometimes we distract ourselves with learning how to do this, how to do that, how to do the other thing, that we're not spending as much time doing the activities that are actually required to build a business. And I promise you, if your brain is focused on the how instead of the if, you're going to come up with your own creative stuff to do. And other coaches are going to be like, whoa, how did you do that? And to you, it's just going to be like, well, it was just a natural progression. I was thinking about how can I get more coaches who join my team in Success Club in the first month, and this super creative solution just came out of my body. That happens when you disregard the if and you're focused on the how. You will come up with your own creative how that is so true to you and feels so natural for you. It doesn't feel like a grind and work. It feels fun. That's not the point. The point is to do the things, right? Do the damn things no matter how you feel. But this fun and flow and creativity, that happens when you're focused on the right things. That is a result when you're focused on the right things. I went so off on a rabbit trail, you guys. It's crazy. I'm looking at my notes and trying to figure out where I was. Okay, there we go. All right. So a strategy that I used when like when I was going for top 10 and when I was just opening up my business and really intent on creating a 6-figure income, is frequently I had a season of what I call burn all the boats. So I don't know if it's a true story or if it's a fable. I actually have no idea, but there was this story of this general that took his army to, like, they were going to an island, and the goal was to take this island, right? And apparently they were all on boats, and he got the army off the boats and he said, burn all the boats. Meaning there is no way out. There's like legit no way out of here. We take the island or we're dead, right? So for me, my version of burn all the boats, it was another mental thing, game sort of, I guess, that I played with myself to just in order to motivate myself to do the things that I needed to do. So first, I went and told as many people as I could about what my goal is and what my vision is and what I'm going to do. I am going to sponsor 20 coaches this month. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I've only ever sponsored 8 in a month before, and that was a stretch. I'm going to sponsor 20 coaches. So I went and told everybody. I told my sponsor coach. I told other people on my team. I told crossline coaches. I told downline coaches. I told my mom, who, I don't know, they still call it the Facebook, and they don't even know what Instagram is. They have no idea what I do for a living, but I told them anyway. So that was number 1. And number 2, this is important. I went to every single contact on my Facebook, colleagues that I had worked with in the past, the one who insulted me and everything. And I invited everybody. Every single time I started a season of push, I invited, literally, like, if you're on my Facebook, you're getting an invite. Oops, I just invited Melanie Mitro's coach. My bad. I have made that mistake a whole ton of times. It's those coaches who on their Facebook, it doesn't look like they're a coach. Like, it's their fault. So I legit, you guys, I invited every single person I could possibly invite. If we're connected on social media, if you are on my phone as a contact, if we are connected on LinkedIn because you used to be my boss at my old job, I kid you not, I invited them. They said no. The next time I was in a push season, I invited them again. This burn all the boats strategy for me, it was like this. I'm like, I'm going to use up, quote unquote, use up. We know this isn't the way it works, right? But I thought to myself, I'm going to use up all my contacts, every single one. I'm going to invite every single one of them so that I am forced to make new contacts because I just invited every single one on my list. I'm going to get so many no's that there are bound to be a few yeses in there. And that, my friends, is what generates momentum. That is what generates momentum. When you start getting 1 yes, 2 yeses, 3, 4, 5, that's what generates momentum and creates the motivation to go do it again the next time. I never thought for a second about the no's. I only ever thought about the yeses. I also always, when I send an invite, I always archive that message. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you're on Facebook, I always archive those messages or so that you don't see them. Do you know what I'm talking about? You only see the replies that come in. So you don't have to even look at the messages you sent out. You only see the replies that come in. So that makes it a lot easier, right? To just focus on the positivity. So, so often we hear, you don't have to care what people think. Like, don't care what people think. And it's like, okay, thanks, Barbara. Like, I wish I had thought of that. It's not that easy. For me, I actually have to really trick myself into doing the things regardless of what people think. So this burning the boat strategy at the beginning of every push season, it does a few things for me mentally. I'm like, Look at me go. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, regardless of what people think, regardless of what's happening emotionally, right? It can be a roller coaster, but it also generates so much momentum for people's eyes on your business. All those people who say no, they're watching your social media more closely. All those people who ghost and don't reply, they're watching your social media more closely. They're clicking on more posts of yours because this is the way algorithms work, right? Whether you're on Instagram or Facebook. So they're seeing you more just because the social media is serving your posts to them more, and they're thinking harder about what is going on with you. And then if you do what I did and you just post your own accolades and like, yay, we did this, yay, we did that, they'll see that there is momentum happening in your business. They're going to see that you are actually doing something. If you post recognition for somebody on your team, somebody in your challenge group, these people who said no or didn't reply are going to be like, this is legit. In some respect, at least, this is legit because people are getting results, and results speak, right? And then there are going to be the people who say yes. There are going to be the people who join you. There are going to be those people who grab a hold of this thing and do it right along with you. All right. I am like out of time, but I'm going to really, really quick talk about building diamonds and my most effective strategies to build diamonds on my team. For me, doing diamond push groups and that kind of thing, I do them. I still do them for my downline. In fact, we are doing one, we're starting in like 7 days or something like that. So I still do them, but they are still not the most effective way for me to build diamonds. For me, I grab a hold of a coach who's been a coach for 2 to 3 months, who has hit Success Club for 2 to 3 months. And I throw out a challenge to them, a big one, like a monster one. And typically it is hit Success Club 50. Like, it's time to do a huge push. I do the burn all the boats speech with them and talk about like, let's do this. Tell every single person possible about this goal, and then go invite everybody on your contact list, in your phone, in your email, all the people. And the goal is Success Club 50. I know you can do it. Let's do this. And some coaches hit Success Club 50. Most don't, because they're 2 to 3 months into this business and they've used up a fair amount of their warm market at this point, right? I don't care. But they do typically hit, because we talk once a week, they do typically hit Success Club 20 and above, and they prove to themselves a great deal. They prove to themselves that they have it in them to push. It's really important to teach coaches early, in my opinion, that they are capable of a big push. They're capable of doing the things like taking the deep breath and jumping in, regardless of what people might say. And they prove to themselves that results are possible. Look, Success Club 20. Oh, like the clouds part and the angels sing. And like, I celebrate this as if they're the first coach ever to hit Success Club 20, 30, 40, 50, because it is a huge freaking deal. It's a massive, massive deal. And then, importantly, the month after this challenge, like right away, after, like, it's the first or the second of the following month, and we have another Zoom chat, I congratulate the coach. I highlight every single thing that they did right, and I highlight that on their way to success, they have failed, right? Lots and lots and lots of times. And then I talk about the fact that they're ready to become a diamond coach. And you guys, after having burned all the boats, it does not take very long, because they've already planted the seed with literally everybody on their contact list. They've been talking about this thing, living and breathing. They've had their own little push season for the whole past month. So this is a launching pad for Diamond. It typically takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months for my coaches after their push season, during which I talk to them a lot. Like, I talk to them once a week and message all the time during their push month where I challenge them to Success Club 50. And then as they're going for diamond, you know, sort of as needed, I chat with them as needed, but they've got this launching pad from which to hit diamond, right? They've had all of these conversations. They can go back to all of these people that they just invited to a challenge group, and they can re-invite every single person, even if they'd said yes to, right? Like they said yes to the challenge group, or they said no, or they didn't reply. It doesn't matter. They're inviting to something different, right? They're not inviting to a challenge group this time. They're inviting them to join the team. So they can re-invite every single person on that list. And like, you might think, whoa, that's too soon, or have you built a relationship or whatever. But remember, like, if they've been friends on Facebook, or if they've been like, if these people have been following them on Instagram for even the last couple of months, like, they're acquainted enough to get an invite for sure. And I think there's something about, for me, I went for diamond very soon after I started coaching. So I never had time to get afraid of it or intimidated by it. You know, it was just the next natural step in my business. It didn't sound hard or intimidating because you need 2 emeralds, and an emerald coach means you got 2 coaches under you. Like, it didn't seem intimidating. And I feel like it's that sweet spot 2 to 3 months into coaching where, you know, they have this push month. You introduce them to, it's time to go for a diamond. You can do it. You've got what it takes. And they feel like this is just that. I've asked every single one of my diamonds, why did you decide to go for diamond? Every single one of them says the same thing. Well, you told me it was just the next natural step in my business. And I figured if I'm going to actually be serious about this business, I better do it. Like, it wasn't this big scary. Does that make sense, you guys? Like, it didn't seem like this huge, like, I have to be some sort of very special leader in order to do it. It was just like, oh, this is what you do next in your business, sort of thing. Okay. So I think that is it, you guys. I went off on a couple of rabbit trails. I'm sorry. I tend to do that when I get excited. Let me tell you about personal development. For when I'm in a push season, I always started the same way. Since I started coaching, I started the same way. It's not the sexiest personal development that you hear talked about, for sure not, and it's not new, but it works. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. I read it all the time. Like, I read it at least twice a year, particularly when I'm starting a push season, because it highlights for me the fact that this business is not run on motivation. You pull in all the motivation. Like, I'm a sponge. I suck up the motivation. Wherever it is, I will take it and I will use it and it will help propel me. But that's not what my business is run on. Like, the Compound Effect for me is like, it's magic. It's magic. And just wanted to say real quick, if anybody here has suffered a loss, if you're in grief, or if you know somebody who is, I always talk about this now because, you know, there are so many people who are grieving and we don't talk about it enough. There's this book by Sheryl Sandberg. I think she's the CFO of Facebook. Of course, now my phone is frozen and I can't get into my Audible. Sorry, guys. I can't remember what it's called, but it's by Sheryl Sandberg. She wrote a book about women in business first, which is really good as well. And then she also wrote a book on grief after losing her husband, which was phenomenal, and really helped me when I was in that season. So that is it, you guys. I went like 5 minutes over. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm just going to read the comments real quick. Oh, Rachel, oh my goodness. She says, all my kids go to school this year. Mine too, girl, for the first time. Keep telling myself I can wait till then to work the way I need to work. Do it now. Oh my gosh, burn all the boats and start now. Like for real, do it. Rachel, could you imagine if you invited every single person on your list, like right before, like, and find those pockets of time before your kids start school? You're going to be so freaking productive when they get to school, and you're going to have so many people to talk to. Love that idea. Sarah Beth, when you reach out to every contact, what are you saying? It depends. It really depends. If I've spoken to this person before, if they've said no before, I'm going to speak to them differently than than back when it was a first time invite. Typically, if it's a first time invite, before I had really any success in this business, I discussed my vision for my business and my vision for my life. I talked about it with a great deal of certainty. This is going to happen. I'm going to build this business that replaces my corporate income, for example. I know that, like, I come from a business background. I probably should have said that. So for me, building income, building business was something that I discussed very freely. And that's how I came into this as well, was to build a business. So that's my context, my vernacular. Your vernacular might be completely different. So I discussed vision before I had any success in this business. And then after that, now what I talk about is what I have going on right now in my business. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I have a coach sneak peek coming up, I'm going to change the context a little bit. Like, if you're like, right now is a really good time to do a back to school sort of thing. And so I talk about what I have going on right now, right? So the first time I've ever done, this sneak peek or this challenge group, right? Like I talk about it like that. First chance to get in on this, or last time I'm ever doing this particular thing. I like to do coach sneak peeks often in, like, jumping into the school season. I do one called Operation Skinny Jeans, and it's for moms whose kids are going back to school. So I start off coaches with a challenge group. I start off new coaches with a challenge group, right? So you're going to build this business. Yay, we're so excited. First, we're going to take 4 weeks to do this challenge group. So this is particularly for, if I feel like, for me, like, my target market is mommies, right? So we're in a season right now where things are busy. We're doing all the back to school shopping. It's a new season sort of coming up. So I'm like, don't worry. It's only going to take you as much time as the challenge group takes in those first 4 weeks. We're going to get our feet wet. It's going to be so amazing. And then even if these are people who have been in a challenge group before, I still do the same thing. Here's what I have going on right now. I am so ridiculously stoked about it. Come do this with me. Let's do it together. It's really easy to reinvite, really, really easy to reinvite when you talk about what's going on right now with you. What was the book called? Option B? Yes, it was. Thank you so much. Barbie was really good at setting the expectation that you needed to motivate yourself. Can you explain how she did that? Oh, girl, if you don't know Barbie. Ooh, okay. She's like this. Look at my face. She's like this. Rosa, you need to motivate yourself. Motivate your own damn self. Like that. She's just, she's so passionate about this business, but she's so cut and dry, right? So cut and dry with her coaches. It was just like that. Like, when I told her at the very, very first, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I don't want to post about coaching. I'm terrified to post about coaching, because what are these people going to think about me? And then this group of people, and then this group of people. And she's like, well, do you want this or don't you? You said you wanted this. So if you want this, you have to post about coaching. End of story. Like, we're going to talk next week, and you're going to show me the posts you did about coaching. Like that. She did a very good job setting expectations. Not everybody responds to that, but I do. When you burn the boats, do you follow up with them, like, after your first initial invite message when you're doing the burning? I love how it's a verb now. Typically I do. Honestly though, you guys, if it's a person who I've invited 3, 4, 5 times and they have never responded, then I typically, then I might not do a follow-up via message, but I probably will do some sort of like a like and a comment on their social media. So I will have a touch point, but not necessarily a message follow-up. Here's the deal as well. I don't want to give you guys an easy out when it comes to inviting. And I'm telling you, this does not replace actually inviting and actually saying those words. But sometimes, and I don't know why, but those people who don't reply to my messages, if I do a Facebook event, like if I do a private Facebook event and send the invite button that way and don't send a private message, sometimes they'll reply. So I just try something different, try something different and new than what I did the time before. But yes, typically I do follow up. Just to complete that question, typically I do follow up and I just let them know sort of the progress on where we are in this sneak peek or whatever. We're on day 3. Registration opens whenever. Just wondering, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you're busy. Like something super low key, super casual. I don't message people a lot though. Like I don't message people for like, hey girls, that's never been my business vibe sort of thing. Like where I interact with people on social media is in their space, like in their backyard. So on their posts, I will interact and have conversation, but I don't send sort of, hey girl messages. It's just, like I said, it's not really my vibe. So they don't get a lot of messages from me. They get invites, they get follow-ups and, answering questions and that kind of thing. Hope that makes sense. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Okay, I'm gonna go eat so much food.
Rosa, that was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will say this, I wrote down a quote from you and I just loved it. I was like, when you said you don't have to feel motivated to do the things. And that's something that really hit me, just because there's days where you just don't feel motivated and you're like, I know I want this, but I don't really want it right this very second. I want to sit here and watch Netflix. Mm-hmm. So that was awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure if anybody has any questions, you can shoot them over to Melanie and she can get them to you and we can follow up that way. But
absolutely. All right. Bye, guys.